In the heart of the Himalaya, storms obey no calendar. To uncover their hidden rhythm, one man turned to decades of forgotten records, seeking the truth behind rain, snow, and the seasons that shape every journey.
It's 2:20 a.m. I'm still buried in the Himalayan Club Journals, century-old field notes from the Himalayas. It's like diving deep into the documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s. The journals cover everything, from indigenous wisdom, cultural myths, to epic expeditions and groundbreaking discoveries. These forgotten stories are brought to life by synthetic voices in the Himalayan Journals podcast. Subscribe, zone out, binge, and pass it to a fellow mountain junkie.
What is the best time to climb in the Himalaya, or even to simply travel its valleys? The answer lies in the careful study of rain and snow. Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth Mason turned to the records of the Indian Meteorological Department to find patterns in the weather west of Nepal. His purpose was to examine the figures, for many travelers in their accounts had spoken of abnormally late snowfall or unexpected breaks in the weather. Mason wished to know what was normal and what was not. The figures came from stations spread across the range, though it was never possible to build weather stations high on the ridges themselves. Most of the data were from valley bottoms. They could not tell the whole story of rain and snow on the heights, but they provided broad indications. Mason grouped the stations into 10 sets, stretching from Champawat and Pithoragarh in the east to Chitral in the far west, and included some plains stations in the Punjab to show rainfall without the effects of mountain walls. One fact stood out at once. November was the finest month everywhere south of the Great Himalaya. Rain was rare, the skies were clear, and mountains rose out of the valleys in sharp outline. It was the best month for travel and for photography, though the days were short and nights cold. For climbing at high altitude, April and October often offered better balance between light and temperature. In general, there were 2 wet seasons, the winter rains from the west and the monsoon from the south. The Bay of Bengal branch of the monsoon carried most of the moisture, deflected northwest up the Ganges plain, while the Arabian Sea branch contributed far less. Thus, rainfall in the east was heavier, while western disturbances showed their strength in Kashmir and beyond. The Punjab and Peshawar plains showed the declining strength of the monsoon westwards. Jalandhar, Sialkot, and Rawalpindi had heavy summer rain. At Attock and Peshawar, the effect lessened, and by the time one reached Landi Kotal in the Khyber, the monsoon was negligible. Here, the winter disturbances gave as many as 12 wet days in March and April, with nearly half the year's rain falling in those months. In Jammu and Punch, at the foot of the Pir Panjal, rainfall increased with altitude and exposure. Jammu, Bhimbar, and Mirpur, at about 1,100 feet, resembled the Punjab plains. Higher stations such as Udhampur and Riasi showed heavier falls. Behind the outer range, valleys like Bhadarwa and Punch felt the shadow of the Pir Panjal during the monsoon, but were exposed to the westerlies of winter. Snow from January to March often blocked the passes until late spring. The Jhelum Valley told its own story. Murree, perched at 7,000 feet, stood athwart the monsoon currents and received abundant summer rain. Muzaffarabad and Domel had less in summer, but more in winter. Uri and Baramulla, behind the Pir Panjal, lay in deep rain shadow. Their maxima came in March and April, when winter rains loosened the hillsides and often broke the Jhelum road with slips. In the Vale of Kashmir, stations like Srinagar, Avantipur, and Anantnag showed the light hand of the monsoon, but the strong weight of winter. April was their wettest month, often with late snow on the passes that delayed expeditions. Gulmarg, higher still, had both monsoon showers and heavy winter snow. At Sonamarg and Dras, on either side of the Zojila, March was the month of snow. The pass remained blocked until the end of May, and caravans timed their crossings carefully after short spells of fine weather. Beyond the Great Himalaya, the land grew dry. Gilgit, Skardu, Kargil, and Leh each received less than 10 inches of precipitation in a year. Leh only 3. Yet the mountains around them gathered far more, and the high passes, such as the Kardung, remained blocked until June. Even here, summer monsoon showers reached the higher ridges, though the valleys remained dry. To the west, in Malakand and Chitral, the picture shifted again. Malakand felt the monsoon in August, but had even greater rainfall between January and April, with a peak in March. Chitral, shadowed by the Hindu Raj, had its maximum in March and April, with curious, disturbed weather sometimes lingering into October. Farther east, from the Punjab hills around Kangra to Simla, Mussoorie, Garhwal, Nainital, and Almora, local topography played the decisive part. Dharamsala, open to the south, recorded 95 inches of rain in the monsoon, while Banjar and Nagar, in enclosed valleys, had barely 20. Mussoorie, standing on a sharp ridge, caught heavy monsoon currents, while Chakrata, farther inside, had less. In Garhwal, Okamath was drenched by July and August rains, while Joshimath, screened by high ridges, was far drier, but saw more winter snow. By the time Mason turned east to Nainital and Almora, the pattern was clear. The best times for climbing south of the Great Himalaya were from April to mid-June, and again from mid-September to November. Beyond the Great Himalaya, fine weather came later, often only after June, when the passes finally opened. The figures showed that what travelers sometimes called abnormal weather was often simply the normal rhythm of rain and snow in the Himalaya.